What springs to mind when I ask you about your religious or spiritual background?
hmm I I was raised with The Simpsons as my religious education up until high school. Both my parents didn't want to; they weren't religious themselves, and so we never went to any churches. But my cool lesbian aunt, who was a part of the Unitarian Fellowship, was also one of the youth advisors at the time, and was like, "Hey, you might really like this." And so just dropped a little bit of a note, and so I started going to the youth group, and from there, I got more involved. I really loved the youth leadership side of things and conferences, and was on staff and attended all the canoodles throughout high school, and then just kind of progressively got more and more into it and would go to the Sunday services in the mornings. But at the time, I still didn't drive, and we lived a ways out of town. And so on Sunday mornings, I'd be the one going to my parents to wake them up to be like, "Hey, we got to go to church." Um, which was a little funny to them, but they had enough faith in me and that community after seeing it a few times that they're very comfortable with me sort of joining and experiencing my faith through the Unitarian Fellowship. Um, and from there, it was got into more of leadership and became a lay chaplain, and did service leading and just loved uh, the whole atmosphere of the church.
Anything about you or your family that you want to share with others at church?
Yeah, I we never have done sort of we don't do God. God is a very loaded term for us in my family, but my aunt, who was my youth advisor, she we would always say that she was my godmother if we did God. And I really love that aspect of sort of chosen community and built community that my family really put effort into forming. Um, and a lot of my aunties and uncles that I would consider now are members of my home congregation back in Peterborough, Ontario.
When has spirituality failed you, lifted you up, or surprised you?
Hmm, that's such a good question. Um, in the past year, I had this thought around or an idea that I really should just turn into a sermon, and probably will one of these days. Um, but the thoughts around a God of small things, um, and not a God that's very controlling or understanding of being able to make the big things in your life happen, but rather on your way into work, you hit all of the green lights, or you go to get a coffee and they've accidentally made two, or you're walking along and you see a really great rock or find a penny on the ground. The God of little small things that drops little signs along the way to remind you that you're on the right path and doing the right things. Um, I think I was surprised most often when there was a period in this last year where a lot of those things were happening. And it was a little overwhelming and surprising where all these like little good things were occurring. And none of them were really monumental, but just on a daily basis, it was surprising that my God of small things was dropping in those little tidbits more often to really help remind me. Um, I found it difficult earlier in the year, or about a year and a half ago, to see those small things, to appreciate those small things when they came up. And it was a bit at a loss on my spiritual journey, because there wasn't really anything good happening in no sense of direction. I couldn't necessarily see where I was being led. And it took quite a bit of stumbling and just picking a direction and sort of running full force that way, which that kind of correlated with I didn't have a direction at the time, so I was like, okay, west works. And so from Peterborough, Ontario in the winter, I just packed up my life and drove west until I couldn't drive west any further. Then I got on a boat, got to an island, and then kept driving west until I landed in Victoria. And that's when I was sort of started to be able to see the appreciation for the small things again. And like, okay, I'm on the right path again. There was a bit of loss in there and disconnect, but I've found my way again, which feels really amazing.
What do you hope that our congregation will do together, both in the world and for each other?
I really hope that our congregation can help lifelong learning, and support lifelong learning in our community with each other and the world, and getting positive information out there. So often there's miscommunications and misinformation that can float around so easily, but together with a foundation of community and a stronger sense of justice and trying to act out what is right, with that basis in being that ground in being in love, I think we can be such a positive force for spreading good information, and good education to both our kids, our youth, our young adults, and into adulthood and older adulthood.
This is especially for families, but really for anybody. Is there anything else you want to say to others at church?
I didn't have the experience or get the experience of RE or religious education, or younger youth group growing up. And it wasn't until high school that I really joined and saw that. But from my experience, it was one of the best decisions and communities for me to join, kind of stumbling into, but has really helped shape who I am today and where I'm going in life. And I think it's really important for people who don't necessarily see the youth programming or aren't a part of the youth programming, to know that it makes such a profound impact in our community and in raising the future generation of UUs. And just the future generation of kids, whether they decide to be UU or not. It's so important, and it's something that happens kind of in the background, but is fundamental to our faith. And if there's any energy or ability to help support that programming, that people really should reach out, from somebody who benefited greatly and became a leader in their community because of it. I can tell them firsthand that it's it makes a difference to be noticed as a youth in your congregation by the congregation.
Till